but it didn't matter. It was like, boop, I'll go. You're fine. Go ahead.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, no big deal.
Good to know.
yes, go
I
ahead.
always hate that like every airport has like different rules, and then they
Yeah.
act like you're an asshole because you don't know the rules.
Oh, I know.
It's like I have
That's
TSA free,
crazy making.
and I'll go to one airport, and they're like, "Leave your laptops in the bag. Don't take your laptops out. Let's go. Let's move it through." And then you go to the next airport, you put your laptop in the bag. They're like, "Laptops have to come out of the bag, asshole." And
Yeah.
like literally
Every
the
time. It's
Yeah.
never consistent. It's never consistent. Why are
already
you
got
showing
my
me your
shoes
boarding
off.
pass? I just need to see your ID. And then the
Yeah,
next
that's
place,
different every
they're
time
like-
too.
They're like, where's your boarding pass? Why don't you have that out? Stupid.
Yeah. They do that different at like our little local airport. Like
Hi, guys.
I'll come one day, or I'll go there one day and check in, and they're like, just the boarding pass. And then I literally will fly 2 weeks later, and they're like, I need your ID, not your boarding pass. I'm like, come on, man.
It's confusing.
What's up, Patreon?
Do you remember the time we flew?
people?
We flew out of our airport, and every time we fly out of our airport, it's like 10 minutes tops to get through.
Oh yeah,
And then we get there the one time, and it was like 2 hours.
that's one of the Mexico trips.
Yeah, and then there was people that missed their flight, and they're like, "You should have got here earlier." Like, it takes 15 minutes
Yeah.
normally. Why would we get
It's
here?
like our
early?
airport has 4 gates, and they're all small planes. So like generally, like I will fly there 9 times out of 10. I will walk in, check a bag, and get through security and be to my gate in like 7 minutes. And then like
Yeah.
this one day you show up and there's a line a mile long for security, and they're like, we tell you to get here 2 hours early. I'm like, every time I've ever gotten here 2 hours early, I sat at the bar for 2 hours waiting for
Yeah.
my flight to come because it doesn't
Yeah.
take any time at all.
Yeah.
Oh,
Lauren agreed. TSA pre
Uh-huh.
is very helpful, except for when I was just telling them I was at the Denver airport and the TSA pre line was
What's the thing
longest
is,
thing I've ever seen in my life.
too many
It's
people are
crazy.
on it now.
Yeah.
So really, as much as you travel, you should get that clear.
Well, sometimes the clear line, that like the TSA pre was moving faster than the TSA with clear.
Really,
There's no rhyme or reason.
I don't even know if my clear is still active, because what I found
Yeah,
was
mine,
like
I deactivated mine, but I could, now that they have my iris scan or whatever
Yeah.
it is that they have. I
Well,
can-
thing
Do you,
was,
remember, do you remember the time? Where
Uh-oh.
were we? Where were we when you were trying to scan your clear and you just kept scanning your face? And the lady's like, eventually, like he did it like 5 times. He's like, I don't know, it won't work.
I wasn't trying to.
She's like, that's the demonstration model. Like that doesn't do anything.
I wasn't trying to scan my clear. What we were doing is we were going into the Admirals Club because we had a long layover.
Uh-huh.
And when I went to the counter, the lady was not paying attention to check us in. And there was a big sign that said, clear, just scan your retina. And since she wasn't like looking at me, I'm like, is that how we're doing it now? So I'm just standing there like, and finally she looks up from her phone and she's like, what are you doing? That's just a display model.
That's the best use of
Oh.
your camera you've ever done on the
Yeah.
show. That's extremely satisfying.
And of course, it had to be with Zach standing right behind me and
Oh,
laughing.
that is
hysterically.
priceless.
So
that's great.
Devin, here's the thing. Zach, tell the
Here's the
people what your generous friend got you for your birthday. I'm so nice.
Bob shows up to my house Saturday because we're gonna go out to eat for my birthday, and he's got a birthday card, and I know that this is Bob because he's got a nice birthday card, and he's very adamant that I have to take it from him at the moment and open it because I just take it from him. He's like, no, you got
You took it and set it on the counter and walked away.
birthday card. So he's like, no, you have to open it. So I open it, and there's just a pile of cash inside.
Oh.
And then I go to the next part of it where he's written, and he said, here's your birthday prize, or your birthday prize from your very generous friend.
I gave him $400 for his birthday.
Yeah.
Isn't that nice of me?
Well, how much did you owe him?
$400.
Then no. No,
Yeah.
it isn't generous.
It was the most generous birthday prize I got.
Listen, I still think it's generous because what's he going to do? Repo the tattoo? Like, he's not gonna, can't do that. I didn't have to pay
Yes, that
him.
makes it generous.
Yeah, I didn't have to pay him.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I appreciate it. I appreciate that you paid me.
Yeah, it was nice of me to
That was nice of
pay
you.
what I owe you. That's
nice
the
of
best
you.
part
And
of that.
thus the dynamic of this friendship that Zach is so nice. He's like, but no, I mean, I appreciate it.
I appreciate you paying me for what you owe
I
me.
appreciate you.
Well, and because that whole thing, I think I don't remember if I said this or not, but like one of the guys at the shop ordered lunch, and I pulled cash out for my lunch. It was like $20 or whatever. And Zach's like, "Don't worry about it. I got it." I'm like, "No, I got it." He's like, "I already paid him. I got it." And I was like, "Well, you shouldn't have done that because I'm not paying you. 'Cause I don't have. This is all the cash I have. Is this $20?"
You know, it happens.
hmm
It happens.
But the problem is when you have your friend tattoo you, you have to do it kind of that way, because if I'm done with a tattoo and I say, "What's the damage?" He'll say, "I don't know, whatever." Like, whatever. What, $100 after tattooing me for 4 hours? I'm like,
Mm.
$100, whatever. So I have to just give him the cash, because what I don't tell Zach this, but
Mm.
what I don't want Zach to think is that I'm just going to him because I'm getting a discount.
Mhm.
And it's not because I'm being
Yes.
generous to him. It's because that makes me feel like he thinks that I'm some kind of peasant or something, that I needed, like I need a
There's a
discount.
lot of layers to this.
Yeah, it really is.
Charity.
A lot of psychological
It's
layers.
it's such a fucking chess match. And I've never even talked about it. Every time I get it's like, I don't know, whatever. Like, no, just tell me how much it is.
Charity.
Whatever, whatever you want to.
What's our friendship
$100
worth
bucks.
to you? No, no
Mhm.
big
Yeah,
deal. Whatever.
yeah, it's no big
Pick a,
deal.
pick a
And so
number.
then
Pick a
so then
number that
I'll
reflects
like,
how you feel about me.
yeah, I'll overpay him then and be like, here's
Mhm.
$1,000 for that tattoo, whatever
Yeah.
it's gonna take,
But
because I
I
need the upper
but I
hand.
feel like you should know me by now that if I say it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter.
I do, but I don't like that. So instead, I wait a week and then put it into a card and just give it to you.
And then I force you to open it in front of me so you
Mhm.
can thank me for the money I
And
owe
then
you.
and then read out loud that I am a generous friend.
Yeah.
Nobody's complaining, so it must be okay. But how's the sound to everybody? We made some adjustments on our soundboard, and we're hoping that we are now level with Janet and that we don't sound choppy and crappy. So let me know.
Fingers crossed. Looking forward
You know,
to
in the
knowing
chat.
in a few seconds because of the delay.
I tell you what, I'm a little concerned about how I'm going to
Smell?
smell. How this is going to work out for me when we do our missing persons case, because Erica put together a one sheeter for me, which I printed out and read two quick articles real quick before I sat down, to just kind of get the information out there. And then Zach has pages of notes. And then you told me you were a little late getting on because you were finishing researching your missing persons case. So I don't know if I want to go first or last.
So in my defense, I do have pages of notes, but really they're all condensed onto one after I rewrote it. But I was afraid that I might miss
Yeah,
something.
and I told you I did a deep dive for like 2 hours last night, but that meant that I was essentially reading the same information over and over and over as I scoured the internet for more information. But what it boils down to is not like an hour's worth of, you know what I mean?
I was all over Facebook pages. And it was I might have been a little much.
Not me. I did an hour and a half of research last night on why a 2012 Hyundai Elantra won't start after you
Yeah.
change the battery.
Yeah.
Turns out the ECU has to reset. Everybody, if you're ever doing that, the ECU
ECU has to restart.
has to reset. Yep. And then also, by the way, if you Google that, you'll find a million videos on the Hyundai Sonata, which is irritating because I intentionally didn't put Hyundai
Mm-hmm.
in the Google. I
Mhm.
just put Elantra, and still it gave me the Sonata over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't catch it. I was like watching a video. It's 10 o'clock at night. It's pitch black. And they're like, and right down here in the steering column is a reset button where you can manually reset your computer. I'm like, there it is. I'm going back up, put some pants back on, go run down back outside, get the flashlight, crawl underneath. I'm like, this doesn't look the same as it. And then I realized it was a different car. So that didn't
Thanks
work.
a lot, AI.
Yeah, stupid AI. Oh man, one of my PD classes last week was about AI, and it was pretty worthless. But it was how, but it was like how.
What a throwaway remark.
Well, but it was like how AI like can be good, and it was like, people talk about the bad things, like it might take jobs and stuff. But let's talk about all the good things, and then literally every good thing they said was like, I'm the asshole in the back of the class. I'm like, but doesn't that take away somebody's job? Because humans used to do that.
Yeah.
What about that? But it was fun to we were playing with Chat GPT, because they were like, enter into the Chat GPT, write me a letter for a student who is misbehaving
Yeah.
to a parent. And it's
Yeah.
have you ever messed with it?
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's like And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, then you could be more specific, like write
Yes.
a letter to a parent for a student who is not listening or engaging in class. And it's like, and it just writes it
Yeah.
out. And then
Yeah.
one of the teachers, not from my district, was like, "Oh yeah, I started using that last year, and it's pretty good. I just make a couple quick
Oh,
little edits, and
wow.
yeah, I send my emails like that." And then somebody else was like, while they were in the class, they're like, "I just put in a request for some equipment to my principal using ChatGPT. Like, put in I request from principal, the name, funding for this project that's going to cost this much," and it was like,
Wow,
"Yep,
wow.
Don't like it.
no,
Yeah,
I
you're
don't either."
definitely not late, Lynn. In fact, you're not even too late to hear that Bob has showered every day and will be showering every day that he's
Yeah,
teaching.
where's Tiffany with her question?
But
Finally,
Grayson's glad that we don't have smell-o-vision. But I want you to know that
I smell good.
he smells good?
I haven't
Question mark?
I haven't whiffed him since I've been here, so
I haven't with him.
Now the necklace, that's a different story. Don't get too close to my neck. That probably stinks.
Ew. Stink necklace.
The stink
Ugh.
necklace.
The
It's a
old
new
stinky necklace.
string, but it's it gets sweaty pretty quick. How's college? We're gonna start here in just a minute, but Christy wants to know how college life's good. Good. I actually talked to my son today. He's having a good, and much as expected. Last week he was like, "I'll probably come home for Labor Day weekend," and then I talked to him today, and like,
He's
so
like,
what are you
"Okay."
thinking? You gonna come home? And he's like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
He's like,
Wait,
you
how was
know,
his first night? How did he do? Did he cry?
I didn't ask him if he cried. He said it was a little
Nor
rough.
do we need to be talking about this live right now.
Oh,
But I went ahead and asked anyway.
yeah, y'all met him last week. He knows that this happens. But yeah, he said he's a little rough. And then I think his first day was a little rough because his roommate wasn't there yet. His roommate
Yeah.
wasn't getting there for that night. And
Yeah.
he didn't know anybody. So it was like, and I still have him like on Life 360. And he was probably fine. I was like all like worried and heartbroken and almost in tears because I'm looking at Life 3. I'm like, he hasn't left his room all day. Like he's just sitting in there
Aw.
in the silence by himself. So I
Aw.
called him and we talked for like a half hour, and then he said his roommate was going to get there later that night, and then that night I saw that he was out at a park till 2:43 a.m. So
Here we
changes
go.
quickly.
yeah,
How
he
quickly is he going to be like, and you're going to need to take me off that now?
yeah. Well, he asked, "Are you guys going to still keep me on the Life 360 when I'm at college?" I don't know.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. It really matters. I said, "Is he gonna be on there?" But I told, as you guys heard me tell him here live, I was
Yeah.
like, or the Patreon patrons did. I was like, listen, I'm not naive. I fully expect you to act like a college student at college. I expect you to have fun. I ask that you be safe.
Yep.
And that you make sure that priority one is getting your schoolwork done.
Mhm.
So you want to, go to parties, have fun, do all the things college kids do, but make sure you're at class every day and you do your work. So
If someone offers you drugs, only take half.
yeah,
Smart.
or none.
guess.
Let's go with none. Let's go with zero
Yeah.
drugs. Yeah, yeah. You can have a
Take
few
half, see how
drinks.
you feel.
Yeah, right. If it's a pill, just throw the whole thing back. It's probably fine.
Oh, did you see that Kathy's on the phone with Jesse? Did you see
Oh,
that?
right now? No, I didn't see that.
Yeah. Kathy's on the phone with Jesse. So
Tell
Lynn says,
Jesse
"Tell
that we
Kathy
all say hi.
Devin's sending support. Everybody's sending lots of support.
Thank you, Kelly, for the super chat. Who says, "Damn the man," or the haters. I don't know. I don't know if that's in reference to something or just a general
Probably talking
statement.
about you. You're the man.
Am I the man?
Around here you are.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Kelly, for that super chat. All right, so we've got 46 minutes before
All right.
you need to be done. I'm hoping we're done well before that. I'm exhausted,
Uh-huh.
and
I'd like to see my kids.
I'd like to sit down at some point. So I'm gonna go to the bathroom really quick.
Yeah, I kind of need to too.
Yeah, so we'll let Zach talk to the chat. He doesn't get to talk much, so here's a good opportunity for you to.
I was ready to read my intro.
I gotta pee first. Janet has to pee,
All right.
and
both
we're
of
gonna be
you,
accommodating
go potty.
to everybody.
Really nice. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm a very generous friend. Just ask Zach.
Mhm.
All right,
He
we'll
is.
do that real quick, and then we'll be right back.
Are we running? Are we going? Are we running? Where are we running to?
Oh, I guess he's not. He didn't tell me to start recording, so I guess.
Yeah,
That's
no,
not
he's really
happening.
going to the bathroom. So go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'll be back. Let me go ahead
Go.
and mute myself.
Goodbye. Goodbye. What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing tonight? I think it's night, right? Yeah, it's like 8 o'clock at night. It's nighttime. I'm over it. My kid's been in school for 2 days. I haven't seen him. I want to see my kids. So the faster we can get this over with, the better today, I think. Empire Records reference. Can we just say it's about Bob instead of Empire Records? Because I think that would be better. Maybe. I'm just waiting. Oh, thank you, Brian, for the belated birthday wish. I appreciate that. We missed you as well. Finally, the show we all want. Is it me? Just me? Save the Empire. What's happening? Let's see here. Just Ducky. Dun dun dun.
Somehow, I get surprised every time I have asparagus and forget that I've had asparagus.
You nasty.
You're muted, Janet.
That's for the best. I made a very disgusted sound when he said that.
I don't know. Apparently that's a genetic thing. Not everybody gets the old aspergas. Yeah, do you get the stinky pea?
I think so. I don't need to talk.
Oh, you would know.
I'm pretty sure I do.
You would know.
I just
I don't
don't
need to
eat
ask Zach because
asparagus.
he's never going to eat asparagus ever.
I think I ate it once, like 1986.
So it does. Just so you know, if you eat it, for some people, it makes your pee stink really, and it's a very unique smell. And if you forget that you've eaten
Jesus
asparagus,
Christ.
you walk in and go pee, and then immediately
This feels like a Patreon conversation.
are like,
Fair.
you're like, whoa, what's going on? What's happening in here? And then you realize
Yeah.
that it's you. All right, we're gonna do the intro in just a second. I think
I don't think we are.
I think format wise,
Mhm.
we do the intro. We'll have discussion about the episode, and we'll go through those couple of little comments that we have, and then we'll do our missing persons, and then we'll
Hold on. What did he call it? Cambridge? Cribbage? What's it called?
Cumbridge. Oh no,
Cumbersome?
should we look it up real quick
7:30
before we
Mary?
start? And only this way, only the YouTube people know that we're knuckleheads.
Yeah.
What is?
Look at that. Super chat just for me.
What is it?
Says this is for you.
Oh, I was hoping they're giving us the answer.
Oh no. But I would like to know what the answer is. Janet, do you remember what it is? Are you still ignoring us?
What the episode number is?
No,
Is that what you said?
what he said. Cambridge, Cumbridge,
No, it's not
Oh, I
Cambridge.
have no idea.
cribbage,
Cabbage.
Caribbean.
What are you talking about? Sorry, I was reading the
A
chat.
term that that Eric kept using.
Oh.
Cumbridge?
I don't think it's Cumbridge either.
Oh no! Somebody help. What is?
Oh.
Oh,
I even thought about it this morning. When I listened to it.
I don't remember.
I like that nobody in the chat is helping.
Nobody at all.
Still about asparagus. in the
They're
chat.
all like,
appreciate that. Appreciate that.
It's definitely not Cumbridge. That's when a male blows. Oh, nope, not gonna fit. That's Urban Dictionary. Not gonna.
No.
Curtilage?
No.
It's
No.
curtilage.
Curbage.
Curbage?
Thank
No,
you,
it's
Kaylin.
curtilage.
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 Oh,
I can't
I don't think
believe-
curtilage is it
I can't
either.
believe I didn't think of what the definition
Are you
of
sure it's
Cumbridge
curtilage?
would be.
Curbage?
Curtilage.
Curtage? Curtage? Curter?
Curtilage.
I don't think it's
Curtilage.
curtilage. Curtilage doesn't sound right either.
I'm sure it's curtilage. Curtilage. Let me see. Curtilage, an area of land around a house
Curtilage.
forming one enclosure with it.
Right, curtilage.
Curtilage.
Listen,
Curtilage.
I'm just going to write it how it sounds.
Shout out to
Curtilage.
Pamela for curtilage, Kaylin for curbage, and Angela for cutterage.
Yeah, that was super helpful. All of you. We appreciate the effort, though. Yeah, and now is when I exposed myself that every time he said curtilage, and I sounded like I knew exactly what he was talking about, I did not.
Yeah.
Did not.
And Schaefer, yes, that is what happens to spoiled milk. We got some serious curtilage in here. Gonna have to go ahead and grab that trash can, bring it over.
Unlike Cumbridge, which is a
No, don't.
word I
Stop
do
it.
not recommend
No.
anyone.
No.
I don't even remember how far I got into that
I can't
definition.
believe you teach high school students.
I like that you
Cannot
started,
believe
like,
you teach
looking
high
at
school
it.
students. This is
You're
so
like,
bad.
that's when
I was
Oh.
like, why would it be? Oh, that's why.
Oh.
That's why.
Oh.
Okay. Curtilage. All right, we're gonna hit record.
Don't you want to clap?
We're gonna clap. Hang on. 1, 2, 3.
I don't like that you do that.
I don't blame you.
Ahoy, friends. Thank you for tuning in to Truth and Justice. You are listening to the Friday follow-up for season 13, episode 14. This is Bob's interview with search and seizure expert Eric Stewart. Eric took the time to provide a lot of insight and answers to your listener questions. However, because this is a listener-driven interview, we only have a few questions for the follow-up. So after we answer those questions, Bob, Janet, and I are going to present a few current missing persons cases. Before we jump into that, Bob, do you have any housekeeping notes?
I don't think so. Oh, the only one that I'll give you guys is when you are listening to this episode, and if you're on Patreon and on Wednesday you hear the Anan Syed episode, if it sounds funny, I'm sorry. So we're trying some new settings on our mixer, and I won't know if it worked properly in the recording until I'm in edit, and I will have recorded both of them before I edit that. So if it sounds like we're like Zach and I are like coming in and out, then that'll be the last time, because we'll change those settings before next week. Yeah. Other than that, no housekeeping. Like Zach said, we don't, I think we had like 3 comments. We got a ton of great feedback about the episode, but the questions I was asking Eric were questions from listeners.
Right.
And I will tell you, I said at the end of the episode, and I 100% meant this, like I could have picked his brain for hours. I thought it was just a fascinating conversation.
It was a great listen.
Yeah.
It was a really good
absolutely.
listen.
Good. Yeah. And I learned a lot. I hope you guys did too. So I guess first we'll start out. I'll let Janet go first this week. What did you think of the episode? Any takeaways? Any hot takes?
Any hot takes? I thought it was great. I'm glad. I think you were nicely sensitive to the idea of the headspace that we can all find ourselves in working in wrongful convictions, or listening to stories about wrongful convictions, and wanting to kind of think of it as keeping the cops in check for our rights. And I feel like that, that thread kind of went through the episode, but at the same time, it was definitely good and interesting to hear that from his perspective. It's not that he's not thinking about civilians' rights, but he's thinking about what cops need to do to protect themselves also.
Yeah.
And that kind of, when you think about it from that perspective, like everyone wins. Like,
Yeah.
just know all of this stuff and don't get in trouble and don't violate someone's rights, because that's not good either. But like hearing him talk about, the little amount of education that's put into that on the front facing side, or like on the front end of cops being trained, and the fact that he has to go around trying to explain to different departments, like, hey, I know it seems like an expense up front, but this is how much it will cost you if these guys don't know this. And by guys, of course, I mean all genders. But so I don't know. That was all very interesting.
Yeah, I really got the feeling from him that his mission, his goal is to teach officers to do it right for every reason, to protect them, to protect the citizens. And I really like that he drew on what you were just talking about. Like he was able to articulate, like, yeah, it might cost you $20,000 to put everybody through proper training, but it could cost you $100,000 a year in lawsuits if you don't. So why don't we do it right? And I was so impressed at the case law.
Oh, he cited a bunch. It was great.
And you guys only heard it, so maybe you thought that he was reading. I was on Zoom with him. He never looked up from the camera. Like he knew all that case law off the top of his head, which was shocking to me. And I looked some of it up afterwards. I had some discussion with some listeners on Facebook afterwards. So I was looking a few things up, and it's like he knows his stuff. The case law he cited was accurate, and he knows it like the back of his hand. What do you think, Zach? Sorry, go ahead, Janet.
Oh, no. I mean, I was going to say I really appreciated when he got to the point where he said, so that's part of it. The other part is building trust in communities and doing that part of your job and being in a place where you trust the person that you're pulling over and the person that you're pulling over trusts you on at least on some level. I know some of that sounds
Mhm.
unrealistic, but I don't know. I thought that was he definitely touched on that piece, and I think that was probably pretty important to most of us. Sorry,
Sure.
Zach, what were you gonna say?
No, for me,
I'm going to interrupt you again, Zach. Sorry. We'll get to you.
Great. Cool.
Sorry. I just wanted to point out Michelle in the chat just said, not to mention as taxpayers, we're the ones that ultimately pay for those lawsuits. So it's a win for us as taxpayers on that side as well, which I think is a really good point. And now, Zach, what did you think?
I'm going to talk really quick just to get this over with. No, for me, it was very insightful. And actually, it was two fronts. It was very insightful, but then also on the funnier front for me is it also makes you realize that like they can pretty much figure a way out to do it legally. Like
Yeah.
everything he said, there's a way that they can search you. Like they can figure a way out to search you legally.
Yeah.
And I know that's maybe the conspiracy side of me, maybe that's the layman side of me. I don't know what it is, but you know, when he starts talking, he said, well, you know, the air around the car is considered free space or however he said it.
It's not protected.
Yeah, so it's just little things like that, and where I was like, there's a way to do it legally and to not get a lawsuit, but pretty much they could find a way to write a warrant.
Kind of, yeah, to write a warrant maybe, but I also liked where he's, you know, like in that example, like as far as like cars and drug dogs, we were asking that I was asking about, you know, how he said like you cannot prolong the stop, and of course he cited the case law in regards to that, but you know I didn't hear him saying, you know, here's ways that you can make it seem like you're extending the stop.
No, and I don't feel like he first of all, I love this interview. It was a great interview. I thought there was a lot of great information. That's just the way that I saw it. Is when he started talking about that stuff. It was never like he presented it that way, but that's what I ultimately saw when he started talking about like the curtilage, where he was talking about that house getting searched or that pole barn getting searched because it wasn't necessarily considered part of the living space.
Yeah.
To me, that still is pretty mind blowing because that still seems like it's private property. I don't understand how that works. I get that there's case law that helps it, but it's little things like that where I'm like, seems like there's a lot of ways around things.
There's a lot of things I learned in the episode, and that was one of them that was surprising to me. Like the fact that I have quite a bit of property here. The fact that it's perfectly legal for police to go in the back of my property and search back there without a warrant, without my consent, without anything. And I don't think it's like a loophole. It's just that's the law that they're able to do that because it's not part of the living space. Like I didn't know that. The thing about extending a traffic stop, like I didn't know as far as the dogs. Like and who know? And that's one thing that I thought was really cool about the episode was learning some of those things because I'm sure there are many people out there where an officer said, you know, can I search your car? And you say no, and you say, all right, well then you stay put because I'm going to get a dog to come in. And they come search it with a dog, and the driver doesn't know, like, no, you can't make me stay here if the stop is over to wait for you to see if you can find probable cause. So I thought that was really interesting.
No, that is interesting. But on the other end of that, again, he talks about the plain sight idea. Like if you can see something that's in plain sight, you can use that as part of your probable cause. And we've actually had you had a listener on, or you had a guest on a few seasons ago when we kind of our intermediate season, who was a corrupt officer, and he actually talked about that plain sight and how they would use that.
Yeah.
So
well, he was planting stuff, wasn't he?
Well, so what it was is they went the big time that he talked about it is they went into a house and moved something.
Yeah, and claimed it was
plain sight.
Yeah.
So again, I love this interview. I thought there was a lot of great insight in it. I'm not dogging it by any means. I loved hearing it, but that's all that kept running through my mind was the idea of like, it seems like legally they can still figure a lot out here.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm sure there's definitely ways that they can exactly what you're saying. And then there's the other I tried to bring out because I'm like you too, like we work in wrongful convictions. So I'm always looking at like what could this cap get away with because of the space that we work in. So I was trying to constantly put my mind set in a place where I was also remembering there are also a lot of times where we need the police to catch the bad guy, to stop someone from hurting someone. And so, you know, from that perspective, you can see where, yeah, as long as you're within the law, now Now, like what you just described is not within the law. You know,
Mhm.
moving something and then claiming it was in plain sight. No, thank you.
Right.
But like knowing the law well enough to know what you can do to make sure, because a big thing that we talk about is if the police do their job right, then then they're going to get good evidence
Correct.
that can actually convict the because just as bad it's not just as bad, but pretty close as convicting the wrong person, which is I think worse. But right up there is someone who is clearly guilty of someone, particularly something violent or harming someone, and they end up walking free because some cop cut corners, and then that evidence ends up getting thrown out and they can't use it in court.
Right.
So I think from both perspectives, it's good for the police to know what they legally can and should do.
For sure.
And I think Eric did a really good job of pointing that out and pointing out the fact. And I by no means am saying that I believe Eric was trying to get away with anything when he was talking about this. I think he is talking about the general education and trying to educate officers into doing things properly. So like I said, there's a lot of good information there.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think of anything else that I learned. I learned the word curtilage. I hope I played off pretty well that I seemed like I knew what he was talking. I knew what he was talking about, but I have definitely never heard that term before.
Yeah.
Before that interviewing, Kelly in the chat mentioned something about it's interesting the different specific trainings that dogs have. And I thought most of you guys know, like I have a hunting dog that I train. So that stuff's all interesting to me. How you can, like my dog Mac, I have trained to sniff for only birds. So if he comes across the smell of a rabbit or a deer or a porcupine, which is a thing that happens to a lot of bird dogs, he ignores it because he's only trained to search for that thing. So it's super interesting that they can take dogs and train them to only sniff for marijuana or to only sniff for methamphetamines or for both or all those things. And that law was super interesting to me about in Colorado if a dog that has been trained on marijuana hits on a car, that they can't use that for probable cause. Which I think that I wasn't able to figure it out, but I like my theory on that, because the thing that makes the most sense to me is you can't call probable cause because your dog smelled something that's perfectly legal for them to have. Be like, if it's like, well, the dog detected that there was a spork in there, and so I'm going to search your car for drugs because sporks are legal.
Interesting choice.
Yeah,
but just
I mean,
I'm saying this as I think about it right now. But just because it's legal doesn't mean anything. I mean, they do that with drinking and driving, right? So if the officer comes up and believes you've been drinking, can smell alcohol, they will have you typically step out and take a breathalyzer. And now there is a point of consumption that you can be under and still operate a vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not illegal, but that's still using the same suspicion.
I should have asked him that, because I believe you don't have to consent to field sobriety tests or to breathalyzers.
Really?
Yeah, I believe that you can say no, and then they would have to get a warrant or detain you, but they're probable cause. So I know a lot about this specifically because I sat as a juror through a trial for a DUI and learned a ton. Like the fact that the legal limit of 0.08 isn't actually a legal limit. That's just one factor they use to. It's the way it was described to me is basically if you're above a 0.08, then you're pretty much considered legally drunk. And without no really way to argue it, but you don't have to be above 0.08. In fact, the person that got convicted in my case, I was an alternate, so I didn't get to vote, blew a 0.05 and was convicted of DUI. And it was based on, they talked about the science of, I'm kind of using air quotes with science because I don't buy it. There's too much subjectivity there. But the field sobriety test, they're actually trained, the officer was citing, like, if a person is standing on one foot and is saying their alphabet and they're not able to do it without singing, there's a 70% chance that they are too impaired to drive. It's stuff like that. Like they have all these like statistics. Yeah.
I have such a problem with that. There are people who have inner ear issues with balance. There are people who just get nervous and wouldn't be able to remember the alphabet backwards. There are people who are dyslexic. Like I have so many problems with what you just said. And I know that's not.
So we have two listeners. We have two listeners that kind of jumped in and said, if you decline, it's an automatic license suspension.
If you decline to do a field sobriety test? Oh, yeah. I may have to send Eric a text and ask, because I'm curious what that, I mean, I 100% believe that that's accurate, but I wonder
So we
how
had two listeners chime in at almost exactly the same time.
Yeah, I
They're
see that.
separate people saying
Hmm.
exactly the same
Yeah,
thing.
I'm curious, like what the like, again, not that I'm questioning them, but I'm just curious what the justification, the legal justification is for that. Because for most things, like you don't have to let them search anything. And there's other, so the listener that I mentioned, I gave the scenario that just went through this DUI situation, and that's still pending. I don't know what's gonna, but in his case, they took him out and did field sobriety tests uh, because there was the empty beer cans in the back of the truck, and they said, well, we're arresting you for DUI, because your eyes were not focused or whatever. And he said, he explained to them, I wear prescription glasses, I don't have my glasses on, can I get my glasses? And they're like, nope, that's it, you're going. And then he was literally begging them he's like, can you give me a breathalyzer? Like,
Right.
I'm not drunk, I haven't been drinking, give me a breathalyzer. And they refused to give him a breathalyzer, and just took him to the hospital to do blood work. Another thing that as long as we don't have a lot of questions, we're just chatting about this, but that I learned in the DUI case that I sat in as a juror, field sobriety test, or excuse me, field breathalyzers are not admissible in court. I had no idea that was the case. Because I actually talked to the prosecutor in that case after the fact, because I was like, how'd they convict you? He said, well, because she was drunk. I'm like, I saw all kinds of probable cause. She blew a .08. I didn't see what you were claiming was her slurring in the body cam video. And the officer told me that there's a 70% chance that she was intoxicated based on the field sobriety test. Well, 70% to me means there's 30% of reasonable doubt that she's not. And he said, well, you know, between us, that person, they blew up whatever. They blew something higher on the scene, but the jury's not allowed to know that because it's not admissible in court. You have to go to the hospital. Fun fact. All right, and I'm just going through the chat real quick to see if there's anything else, because there's a lot of good information there. It looks like everybody in the chat really enjoyed the conversation. A bunch of chat about that. All right, is there anything else either of you guys want to talk about with the interview? Any takeaways other than the stuff we've already discussed?
I do not think so.
All right.
Good.
So now, as promised, because we do have like 3 at least listener comments. We should do those, and then we'll get
we
into the
can just
missing
shout
person
them out.
stuff.
I think we've covered some of this, but Tara says, interesting topic to learn about. The open fields doctrine was especially surprising to me. Did anything jump out at you as potentially useful in the missing persons or wrongful conviction cases you've covered?
The open fields doctrine is definitely one that I thought of in was it Andy Wagner's case, or it might have been Caden Black's case? I can't remember, but they were wanting to do searches of some wooded areas, and the police had told them that they can't really search there because that's all private property. And it sounds like, and matter of fact, I need to write myself. Let me see your pen, Zach. Write myself a note to contact them to let them know that, because it sounds like, one of the questions I asked Eric was, when you go teach these trainings, are you finding that everybody's like, yeah, duh, or are people like genuinely like did not know this stuff? And he said, you guys heard him, he said that in a lot of cases they did not know what they were supposed to be doing, or that they were violating people's rights, or whatever the situation might be. So I wonder if that police department, if they hear like, hey, you absolutely can go, if it's not in their living space, you can go search those fields, you can go search those woods. You don't need permission, you don't need a warrant to go search and look for somebody's body. So I think that's one way that it could really help us out.
Yeah, absolutely. Alva says, great information. Thank you. The information on the topic of a traffic stop not exceeding the time for a dog to arrive. I would think this happens more often than not. We talked a little bit about that, but that also stood out to Alva. And then Grayson said, besides drugs, what else can cause a search and seizure? Like, can they stop you if they feel you fit a profile of someone who they've been given a bolo on, or like someone just shoplifted something and they were wearing this hoodie? Like, when do you get into the sort of profiling versus other suspicions about other things?
So I don't like calling that profiling, because I think that's something different. To me, and that's just to me, profiling is like, it's a person of color driving in a particular neighborhood, so I'm going to stop them. But the thing is, all of this gets argued in court, right? So most defense attorneys, we're seeing it with the Delphi case. That trial's coming up, and if you're following the case, you see constant motions by the defense to try to suppress evidence. We've seen in all of our cases, if you go through the pretrial stuff, they're trying to suppress evidence. In Non's case, they're trying to suppress the cell phone evidence, or trying to suppress, Jay's testimony or whatever it is. So it's a very common thing. So it all comes down to how confident you are in what will hold up in court. So in your example, so say you get pulled over because you fit the description of somebody. I think an officer could make that argument, and most judges would probably accept that. So, like, say that happens, a person gets arrested, and then the defense says, "I want to suppress anything, the entire stop. It's fruit of the poisonous tree because they didn't have probable cause to stop him and question him, or whatever the thing is." And an officer might say, "Well, we had this description where somebody, say, is a bank robbery or whatever, and we were told that the robber left in a gray Hyundai Elantra, and it was a white male with brown hair and a beard, and he was wearing a blue ball cap, and we saw this person driving that type of car. He's a white male with a brown hair and a beard and a blue ball cap. That was probable cause enough to us." So I think, and again, don't ever take anything I say as legal advice, because I'm not an attorney.
Mhm.
But I think that, kind of along the lines of what Zach was saying, that they can kind of find a way, right? So, but it's always going to come down to the defense then saying this evidence should be suppressed because they did not have probable cause to get it, and then the state having to argue that there was probable cause and provide evidence for that, and then a judge is going to decide if it stays in or if it's thrown out.
Got it. Well, that is what we have, and we don't have a ton of time. And I know that we do have some missing persons cases that we wanted to cover.
Yeah.
Who would you like to start with?
I'm going to go first, only because you guys seem to have done more work than me on it. So I want to shout out Erica Cantor, who all you guys all know, who has been gathering missing persons cases for us and put together kind of some one sheets for us, because I told her that we wanted to be able to just in a couple of minutes highlight some cases and then put like flyers and stuff on our website to help get the word out. So if it hits an area where you live nearby, or you have some connection to, where you can share this stuff. And so Erica sent me a sheet on the one that I'm going to talk about. She sent one to Janet, Janet was busy traveling for work during the week, so she just popped that over. Zach is an overachiever and looked up his own case and did all of his own research.
What the hell, Erica?
Yeah, well, and then Janet told me that she was going to be a little late to get on the call because she was finishing up researching her case, and I didn't do that stuff. So I'm going to go first, so that I'm going to set the bar low for you guys, and you can go from there. So my missing person comes from Kingsport, Tennessee. It is Layla Santinello. She's 21 years old. She disappeared on June 27th of 2023, so just a couple of months ago. I'm going to go down to the notes and then circle back to the description. She has a 2-year-old daughter. She was last heard from telling her mom that she would be staying at a motel with a friend in Kingsport. She was seen on motel cameras going door to door with no shoes on. She then ran into a nearby tree line and was seen in a field between 8 and 10 a.m. on the 27th of June. At noon on that day, Layla was seen inside of an ice cream shop, where she told an employee that she was going nearby to buy some shoes. And then after that, Layla was never seen again. On the 3rd of August, it'll be last month by the time you hear this on Friday, the Texas Bureau of Investigation issued an endangered young adult alert. There's been large-scale multi-agency search that took place on the 15th of August, and they had no result. They used canines, drones, and underwater sonar. They searched about 320 acres with over 100 first responders. The focus areas now are a trail, some local shopping plazas, and surrounding areas. So from what I read in some online articles, it was not clear. I don't know if there's some sort of a mental break going on, if she was struggling with substance abuse, or something was going on with her. The fact that she's running around without shoes, she certainly was. It doesn't seem like she was like fleeing someone
Hmm.
at the time because she went into an ice cream shop. She talked to somebody. I got the impression from the articles I read that she was, that they were asking her or maybe saying, you can't be in here without shoes on. And she told them, no, I'm going to go buy some shoes. And then she just vanishes. So it seems like she was in a very vulnerable state, and then she just disappeared, which is a very scary thing. And she's pretty small of stature, and was in that vulnerable state and then disappeared. So there's definitely concern. So if you're anywhere around Kingsport, Tennessee, please look at all of our social and our website to get this information to share it. So Layla Santinello is 4'10", 135 pounds. She's white. She has blonde hair, brown eyes, and she was last seen wearing a white tank top, black leggings, and she had no shoes on. If you have any information on the disappearance of Layla Santinello, you can contact the Kingsport Police Department Criminal Investigations Division at 423-229-9429 or the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation at 1-800-TBI-FIND. And that is my missing persons case of the week from Kingsport, Tennessee.
God,
You want me to
these
go
are
next?
hard. Sure.
JV, you want me to go next? Is that fine?
Sure. Whatever you want.
Let me do a little transition here. So that's mine. And Zach, I'll let you go ahead and go next with yours.
All right, my missing persons case is out of Red Lake, Minnesota. Now, Red Lake, Minnesota is an unincorporated community on the southern shore of Lower Red Lake in northern Minnesota. So it's a very small community. It's a population of about 1,700 people. It's actually an indigenous community, primarily. So what we know is on the evening of July 17th, 2023, Gus Red Eagle, a 23-year-old Native American male, was last seen near his sister's house in the area of Highway 89 and Walking Shield Road. Now, Gus has not been seen or contacted his family member since that evening, which is very, very unusual according to his family and out of character. And here's what we know about the night that Gus went missing. So what's been released is late Monday night, the 17th, or early Tuesday, July 18th, there was what was believed to be an altercation with a neighbor. So that the area they lived in was a housing community. So we don't know if it was a direct neighbor. We don't know if it was just somebody in the housing community. And it's unsure, like it hasn't been said if it's a physical altercation, a verbal altercation, but we know there was some sort of altercation occurred with a neighbor. So law enforcement has actually done searches of the area using ATVs, drones, canines, and nothing's turned up. At this point, the families, it's all over social media. They're extremely worried. So Gus Red Eagle is a 23-year-old Native American male. He's about 5'9", about 160 pounds. Gus has brown hair and black eyes. Gus has brown eyes and black hair and was last seen wearing a blue shirt, black shorts, and black shoes. Gus's family is also currently raising money for a reward for any information to help find him. It's all donated items and they're raffling off. They're doing like a raffle for it.
Oh,
a lot of these items are coming from people in the community. There's also it's MMIR, missing or murdered and missing indigenous relatives organization has donated a lot of goods for this raffle. I'll put all the information in the fan group. If you have any information about the whereabouts of Gus Red Eagle, please contact the Red Lake Law Enforcement at 218-679-3313 or the Red Eagle family at 218-328-4546.
All right. Thank you for that. And I also want to, it looks like Nicole in the chat asked me if Layla was missing in Tennessee or Texas. I must have misspoke if I said Texas. So thanks for pointing that out. It is Tennessee. It is from Kingsport, Tennessee. So if I said Texas earlier, I meant Tennessee. Thanks, Nicole, for pointing that out. And Janet, what is your missing persons case of the week?
So thank you so much, Erica, for sending this to me. You gave me some really interesting details that I jumped off of and did some deeper dives. And there's some confusing information in here, but I do want to talk a little bit about Mariam Touré Sila. That's Mariame. Touré is Toure with an accent, and Sila, which is Sylla. She's a 59-year-old woman. Next month is her birthday, and she disappeared July 29th, 2023. So a month ago from when we're recording this. And the location is Greenbelt, Maryland. Miriam teaches third grade at the Dora Kennedy French Immersion School. She's very beloved there. This is like a very emotional case, and just one more thing that is very troubling and confusing, and I wish there was more information. She's originally from the Ivory Coast, which is a French-speaking country, and some of her family still lives there, including her sister, who came to Maryland after Miriam disappeared in order to help with the searches. So Miriam loved to take evening walks pretty regularly at the park near her home. That's Schramm Hills Park, Schramm, S-C-H-R-O-M, Schramm Hills Park. But she would always be home before dark for evening prayers because she is a devout Muslim. So there are some details surrounding her disappearance that are a little unclear to me. In some reports, it said that she was last seen, and I'm putting that in air quotes, at the park. But then when I really look at what the police are saying, I don't really see any evidence that she was actually seen. It seems more that from other reports, she told her son over the phone that she was going to go for a walk, and then she never came home. It said that the son in question lives in Africa and was there when the phone call occurred. But then I read a different report that said that a family member who lives with her reported her missing, who also seems to be her son. So it's unclear if we're talking about two different sons. And to make things more confusing, recently reporting came to light that her son has been in custody since early August after being arrested and held without bond over traffic charges, drunk driving, from several years ago. The police have been very careful to say he's being held on charges unrelated to his mother's disappearance. So with all of that being said, do know that exhaustive searches have taken place with the help of local state police and federal agencies. No traces or clues have been found. In one ABC report I read, it said that her cell phone had been turned off before the time she allegedly left for her walk. No social media or cell phone or financial activity has taken place, at least not that the police will discuss. They're a little vague on that. They're just kind of like, I watched a couple of different press conferences, and they said they're using all of the available investigative techniques, including looking at every online activity. And when asked by reporters, did you see any activity since then? He said, like, nothing significant or that we can discuss. So it's sort of vague around that. So it's a real mystery, and there are some factors at play here that I think probably a lot of us are wondering about.
Yeah, it sounds to me like maybe like they're treating it as though there were foul play. Have they said if they suspect foul play?
They say that they still will not say that they suspect foul play. She's considered critically missing or critical missing person because she has medication that she does need to take and she doesn't have it with her. But it's just the layer of her son being in custody for traffic violations from years ago, and the fact that he, like, who is a citizen, and maybe it's totally unrelated. I don't know. And of course connections are being drawn between those two by the news. So it's very troubling.
Have you come across, I looked for in Layla's case, and I haven't found a specific Facebook page or group dedicated to her being a missing persons. However, if on Facebook, if you just Google or if you just search for Layla Santinello missing, her sister Jennifer has made a lot of posts about it and made a lot of announcements about it. So that's something that you can follow. Have either of you guys come across any missing persons page or somewhere people can follow if they're from the area for more information?
Sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
For my case, I essentially did the same thing. If you look up Gus Red Eagle, it comes up all over social media, and it's mainly families' pages that are posting. There's not an actual group page yet that I'm aware of. But as of, I looked before we recorded, and they're still searching for him desperately. As of an hour ago.
Yeah, Nicole Johnson in the chat says that it's posted on the Red Lake Police Department page. She's seen the case and posted on Missing in Minnesota too. She said, unfortunately, she doesn't think many missing adult cases end up in the paper. And she's responding to, I guess I'll back up Amy in the chat earlier, it said that she hates that she lives in Minnesota and she subscribes to one of their major newspapers and hasn't heard of the case that you were describing.
So my guess is a big part of it is in northern Minnesota, far out from everything else, far out
Mhm.
from where all these major newspapers would be cited, and it's in a very indigenous community. So I don't know that it's probably getting the coverage that it needs.
Right.
Yeah.
And someone did ask if we'll be posting information about these cases on the Facebook page and the Facebook group. We will, to give you guys places, try to give you things that you can grab or link to be able to share if you're from the area, to make sure that we get the word out. And Janet, were you able to see, was there any Facebook group or anything for yours?
I'll have to look more specifically. I mean, there's definitely conversations happening about it, but I don't know that the pages that I found when I was searching for personal pages there was a GoFundMe to try to raise money to help, for example, to bring Miriam's sister over from the Ivory Coast so she could help, and she was able to do that. But we'll see if we can find any really specific links for the Facebook page to put in there. She is 5'5". She is 135 pounds. Again, as I said earlier, she is 59, almost 60. Possibly last seen wearing a long dress and headscarf. Beloved teacher in her community. And we will list the Greenbelt Police Department's phone number, but it is 301-474-7200.
All right, sorry, give me just 1 second here. One second. Now, where are my glasses? I can't see. Okay. Okay. Thank you both for that. I kind of sprung them on this. Okay. Thank you both for that. I kind of sprung that on both Janet and Zach this weekend, that we want to, because we didn't have a missing person of the week last week when we started the Adnan series on the main page, or on the main feed. So I wanted to at least double up this week, and now we've tripled up, so we've got ourselves ahead a little bit. But we want to continue as we go throughout this in between season time to make sure that we're continuing to highlight cases from around the country and around the world. So again, keep submitting those cases, even if they're not in the United States, because if we can kind of do something like this most weeks, then I think, and on the follow-ups, I think that we can cover more ground as the time goes on when we're between seasons. And with that, I think that we're good to wrap this thing up. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I'm trying to blank, what the hell was I just going to say? Oh, and with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. I want to thank everybody for joining us. And for all of you patrons out there, when you hear this Friday, if you haven't already, the plan is on Wednesday, I should have dropped the second episode of the breakdown of the prosecutor's coverage of the Adnan Syed case. If you're watching live, that will be tomorrow. I have it edited. I have it recorded. I just need to get it edited tomorrow before I go to class and get that put out. So that should be out on Wednesday. That is on our Patreon. And other than that, I think that's it. Unless either one of you have anything else to add.
I do not.
Just somebody asked what we can expect from next week's episode.
Good question. I'm not really sure yet. I had somebody reach out that was a forensic psychologist that they had said it might be a good thing that we could educate our listeners on. And so I was hoping to do that this week. Turns out they can't do it this week. So I, in the next couple of days, have to figure out what I'm going to do for this week's episode. So, of course, if you have any ideas or people you want to hear from, or if you happen to be an expert in any of the fields that might be useful to us to learn about, go ahead and reach out to me. Or if there's, just any particular topic you want me to, I don't intend for them to be all interviews during this time. But if there are interviews to do, I like doing the interviews because I like learning new things from different people other than just hearing me. So not sure what that's going to be yet, but we will have something for you on Sunday, I promise. And with that, thanks everybody for listening. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for being here in the live chat, and we'll talk to you all next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.
All right, I'm going to stop on our record. Just like that, Janet, with a minute to spare.
Absolutely not, Lynn. We are not interviewing Erica. I'm done with her.
Interview Erica Cantor.
Bullshit.
Maybe we can talk about some DNA stuff.
Nope.
Sure.
Yeah. Hey, so in Erica's defense, she just sent me a missing persons case, I knew that so I was selfless to begin with
Texting her right now.
because I knew that Janet was in Colorado and she was working, and I knew you were going to be crazy busy. So I thought I will send this to Janet. That way she's got something to work with. Then my daughter's car broke down, and my schedule went haywire. And so I was like, do you have any more, Erica? and she did. So she sent a couple more. But by then you had already picked your case.
Just
Erica,
text her. I
thank
said,
you
what's
so
with this
much.
bullshit with not sending me a missing persons case?
Devin, thank you so much for the super chat. She says, Bobbert, I dare you to read out loud the entire Urban Dictionary
Don't you do it.
definition.
Don't do it.
As you may have heard, I now work for a public school, so I don't think that's a good
Don't you
idea.
do it.
A little upset that I
Yeah.
read as much of it as I did, but I can plead ignorance. As
Uh-huh.
you all saw me realize what was happening halfway through that sentence.
Yes.
Should have checked my source. All right, we'll give just a couple minutes here if anybody has anything else they want to super chat or want to burning questions. Otherwise, we're gonna let this go. I'm gonna try to go sit inside and spend a little bit of time with my family before I go to bed tonight because I haven't got to do that yet
I'd just like to see my family.
this week. You see your
Yeah.
family all the time.
My kids have been in school the last 2 days.
Kidding. I know. It's weird kids being back
I
in
always have to
school.
work.
Yeah.
Oh, and Janet, if you have to go, you can go. Obviously.
I'm gonna hop out in a minute, but
Okay, we're only gonna
I
go
could
for
have
another
talked
minute.
about that case for. I could have talked about all of those cases for. Oh, it just brings up so many questions. It's just
That
we're
one's
just all
super
people who really want
perplexing.
to help. We just want to help.
Yeah. My hope is that when we're putting these out, that there's people like Amy that was in the chat that's like, hey, I do live in Minnesota. I can help spread the word
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
and get some of that out there. And plus we had a couple of those GoFundMe's. One thing I will ask is if you guys, since you guys have your cases, wouldn't mind posting the information about your cases in the fans group. Instead of me trying to find the information about them to post in the fans group, I would
Yeah.
super appreciate that.
Yeah.
That'd be great. It'd be like Janet's first ever post
Not a fucking chance.
on Facebook
Yeah, I know. I'm sure
in
I'll
several
get
years.
something horribly wrong, but
We'll
see.
All right. Let's go ahead and wrap this thing up. We're going to close out the YouTube. Thank you everybody for joining us, being a part of this. And again, if you guys have something you want to hear about this week, let me know, because I was feeling real good when that person had reached out to me suggesting that they could come on the show, and I was like, sweet. And on Sunday, I'm like, let me know. Let's do an interview this week. And then they just got back to me yesterday and were like, can't do it this week. So we'll see. Let me know. And we are going to end this right here. Thanks, everybody. We love you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
And a post was created. Delete it. Remove destination.